A man named Dell sped through traffic with his paralyzed boss Phillip inside the car. They were pursued by a police car, but Dell managed to lose it, only to be caught by more police cars. Handcuffed, Dell explained to the police that Phillip was quadriplegic, and he was rushing him to the hospital because Phillip was having a seizure. To support his claim, Phillip decided to fake a seizure, and the police officer, unaware of the situation, asked Phillip to step out of the car. Unable to move due to his paralysis, Phillip continued feigning the seizure, and the police officer eventually discovered it was real. The officer decided to call for an ambulance, but Dell insisted that his car was faster. The police escorted them to the hospital, and the chief wished them good luck before leaving Dell chuckling. 6 months earlier, Phillip reprimanded his personal assistant, Yvonne Pendleton, for allowing medical intervention against his wishes. Yvonne explained that she couldn't prevent it. Meanwhile, Dell, under the guidance of his parole officer, was tasked with obtaining signatures from potential employers to prove he was actively seeking employment, or else he risked returning to prison. Dell managed to collect signatures from various places and headed to Phillip's penthouse for one more. Upon arriving at the penthouse, Dell discovered a crowd of people waiting to be interviewed for a job. Confused, he learned that the job was for a life auxiliary. During the interview process, Dell excused himself to the restroom but ended up in an open office belonging to Phillip. There, he took a book from the shelf. Back in the waiting area, Dell became agitated, realizing he needed to pick up his son from school. Impulsively, he barged into the interview room where Phillip was conducting interviews with candidates. He explained to them that he just needed a signature as he had to pick up his child. The candidate was asked to excuse them, and Phillip suggested Dell take a seat. Dell, however, was a bit insistent, and Phillip inquired if he needed a job as well. Dell replied affirmatively, stating he needed both a signature and a job. Phillip offered him the job, surprising Yvonne, who was not supportive of hiring Dell. Dell proceeded to pick up his son from school, only to find out that his ex-wife had already taken Anthony home. At his ex-wife Latrice's apartment, Dell gave his son the book he took from Phillip as a birthday present. Dell returned to Phillip's place to accept the job, but Yvonne offered to sign the form on his behalf so he could leave. Dell refused. He inquired about the pay, which Yvonne showed him. Dell was okay with it, but he requested cab fees as well. Yvonne then informed him that the position was live-in. She led him to his impressive room and mentioned a deal she made with Phillip: 3 strikes, and he would be out. In Phillip's room, a loud opera song was playing. Yvonne instructed Dell to pick Phillip up to transfer him to his chair. However, Dell forgot to buckle him in, nearly causing Phillip to fall. Yvonne then assigned Dell the task of feeding Phillip his breakfast. During breakfast, Phillip asked Dell if he had experience taking care of someone. Dell replied that he had taken care of himself. Curiously, Dell asked Phillip if he was as rich as Jay-Z, to which Phillip confidently claimed to be richer. Soon, Phillip's physical therapist, Dr. Maggie, arrived. Maggie showed Dell how to warm up Phillip's body and, while demonstrating, asked him if he had ever changed a catheter. This horrified Dell, and when Maggie questioned how he would clean his own butt if he found this horrifying, he became even more distressed. Firmly, he stated that he wouldn't do it. Complaining to Yvonne, she informed him that it was part of his job, leading to a strong disagreement. Yvonne gave Dell a strike. Phillip informed Dell that as his caregiver, he would need to agree to a do not resuscitate order, which Dell agreed to. Curiously, Dell asked if that was the reason Phillip hired him, but Phillip disagreed. Phillip then shared memories of his late wife, who had been terminally ill. One day, Dell overslept, and Yvonne woke him up, informing him that she had been trying to reach him. She gave him another strike. Heading to Phillip's room, where he assisted Phillip in bathing, jokingly referring to it as waterboarding. Dell helped Phillip open his mail, only to be shocked, and Phillip authorized a large donation to charity. Trying to benefit himself, Dell wrote a note asking for a donation, but Phillip declined. As they left the building, they encountered Carter Locke, Phillip's neighbor, who suggested getting a caregiver from where he had found one for his mother. Uninterested, Dell insisted they had to leave. On their way out, Dell inquired about Phillip's cars, learning that the expensive ones on the right were Phillip's, soon to be sold. Excitedly, Dell convinced Phillip to take one of the fast cars instead of the practical van. They went to an art gallery, where Phillip bought an art piece at a price Dell found outrageous. Phillip explained it was part of a series his deceased wife loved and mentioned a collection of first-edition books she had given him. Dell remembered giving one of those books to his son, Anthony, but didn't share this with Phillip. Back home, Yvonne handed Dell his first paycheck. Happily, Dell met with his ex-wife, Latrice, in one of Phillip's cars. When she asked about the owner, Dell explained it belonged to his wealthy boss. Expressing his desire to see their son, Anthony, Dell handed Latrice the paycheck he received. Intrigued, she questioned what job allowed him to earn such a substantial amount. Dell proceeded to tell her about his new job, inquiring about Anthony's well-being. Latrice assured him that their son was fine. Dell then asked if she could help him retrieve the book he had given Anthony, revealing it wasn't his. Uninterested, Latrice advised him to handle it himself before walking away. Determined to collect the book, Dell went to Latrice's neighborhood but got interrupted by a page from Yvonne. Upon his return, Yvonne issued him a third strike. Despite Dell's attempt to explain that he had gone to give his paycheck to his ex, Yvonne was firm in her decision. When questioned about taking the car, Phillip intervened, claiming responsibility, prompting Yvonne to back down. Dell thanked Phillip for his intervention. Later, Phillip experienced a nightmare of his paragliding fall and heard his late wife calling his name. Startled awake, he found Dell there. Phillip was wheezing and choking, and Dell attempted to offer oxygen, which Phillip initially refused. Dell threatened mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, making Phillip laugh, and finally, he accepted the oxygen. To help Phillip catch his breath, Dell took him to the balcony. Dell inquired about any pain, and Phillip mentioned his legs hurting. Phillip confided in Dell about the desire to die due to the loss of his wife. Determined to support him, Dell suggested they go outside, where he gave Phillip some weed to smoke, getting them both high. As they shared the experience, Phillip recounted his paragliding accident and his wife's battle with cancer. Dell and Phillip went to a diner. They discussed Dell's unconventional business ideas, hoping for Phillip's investment. Phillip, however, asked for more time to think it over. Dell then inquired if Phillip inherited his wealth from his father. Phillip clarified that he earned all his money through hard work. The next day, Maggie notified Dell that she would be running late, leaving him with the challenging task of changing Phillip's catheter. Despite Phillip teasing him, Dell struggled with the procedure. An awkward moment arose when Phillip became aroused, unsettling Dell. Curious, Dell questioned how Phillip could experience arousal with a paralyzed body, except for his face. Phillip explained it happened unconsciously, especially if his ears were touched. The conversation continued until Yvonne stumbled upon them, prompting Phillip to ask for more time as she hastily left the room. Dell attempted to bring two women into Phillip's penthouse. One of the women massaged Dell, while the other touched Phillip's ears, seemingly pleasing him. After this, Dell and Phillip attended an opera performance, where Dell attempted to encourage Phillip to find a woman from the audience. Dell's laughter at an opera singer disrupted those around him, but Phillip silently joined in, amused by the situation. Back at the penthouse, while Dell was painting, he overheard Phillip expressing poetic. He thought he was reading this to Yvonne, but later found out that Phillip writes letters to a woman named Lily Foley. This revelation surprised Dell. Dell then confronted Yvonne about her background, learning that she had gone to Harvard and had been working for Phillip even before his accident. She left when her mother got sick, briefly married, and returned to assist Phillip when she heard about his situation. Working on Phillip's chair, Dell assisted him in exercising. He dropped off his paycheck at Latrice's place. Yvonne helped Phillip compose a letter to his epistolary friend Lily. Dell continued painting his art piece, observing his son playing basketball with other kids. He added a design to Phillip's chair, allowing him to stand behind it while Phillip moved them both, which excited Phillip. Dell asked Phillip about Lily's appearance and how she made him feel. Phillip admitted he didn't know what Lily looked like, revealing that they were just epistolary friends who exchanged letters with each other. He was shocked Phillip had not Googled Lily to know what she looked like. To validate his point, he questioned Maggie and the penthouse chef, Charlotte, about whether they would Google Phillip in an epistolary relationship. They both confirmed that they would. Dell proceeded to Google Phillip and found good-looking pictures. Despite Phillip's reluctance, Dell asked for Lily's last name to continue the search. Unable to obtain the last name, Dell checked the letter and discovered different women with the same name. He then found Lily's number on the letter and insisted that Phillip call her. Phillip resisted, but Dell took Yvonne's phone to make the call. Phillip's birthday was coming soon and Yvonne asked him about his plans, but Phillip was indecisive. She asked Phillip if he would like to see Lily in person, but Phillip voiced his concern about Lily seeing his wheelchair. Dell gathered Yvonne and Phillip in the hallway to show them his painting, seeking their opinions. The next morning, on Phillip's birthday, he expressed a desire to go on a drive anywhere Dell chose. Dell took him to pick up Anthony from school, and during the drive, Anthony questioned if Dell was Phillip's driver. Phillip clarified that Dell was his chief executive and right-hand man. They enjoyed ice cream together, and Dell attempted to pitch an ice cream franchise idea. They dropped Anthony off at Latrice's apartment, where Dell asked to retrieve the book he had given Anthony for his birthday, hinting that it was now Philip's possession. Anthony, disappointed, returns to the car where Philip is waiting and hands over the book. Dell questions why Anthony would do that, but an angry Anthony pushes Dell's hands away before storming off. Dell explains to Philip on their way home that it happened before he was hired, and he intended to return it, emphasizing that he is not a thief and Philip understands. Upon returning to the penthouse, they are greeted by a surprise birthday party with a crowd of people, and Philip is given gifts. In private, Philip expresses anger to Yvonne for organizing a party despite his strong refusal. Yvonne apologizes and offers to ask the guests to leave. Philip asks Dell if he knew about it, and Dell apologizes, noting that he has a thoughtful executive. Dell mentions his struggle to see his son, leading to a heated exchange where Dell smashes the monitor given to him by Yvonne. Shockingly, this gives Philip a sense of relief and he too began to break things. Yvonne enters the room to find it in disarray, and Philip apologizes, surprising her. She informs them that the guests are still present, and they proceed to watch an opera performance. Carter attempts to reveal Dell's past crimes to Philip, who dismisses Carter, stating he is already aware. Philip plans to auction Dell's painting and is uncertain if it will be appreciated. As they leave the guests, Philip and Dell smoke weed and come out very high. Dell convinces the opera singers to perform again, initiating a dance. Dell dances with Maggie and Charlotte, coaxing Yvonne to join, which she initially refuses. After much persuasion, she eventually joins in, surprising Philip with her dancing skills. Lily calls Dell to wish him a happy birthday and asks him out on a date. The next day, they go to the restaurant where Philip is set to meet Lily. While waiting for her, Philip instructs Dell to take an envelope from his jacket, revealing a check for the painting that Carter bought. The substantial amount prompts Dell to make a scene at the uptight restaurant. He said he was going to use the money to start an art business, but Philip suggests he uses the money for another business idea. Lily finally arrives, and Philip introduces her to Dell, stating that Dell will be joining them. Philip apologizes to Lily for not disclosing the information about his chair. Lily responds that she already knew, having seen a photo and an article. Lily expresses that Philip being in a wheelchair is not what she expected, and she suggests that maybe Dell should have stayed to help. Despite her attempts to engage him, Philip refuses food, claiming he is tired. Philip asks her to call Dell, expressing his desire to leave. Unresponsive to her attempts at conversation, Philip tries to move but ends up causing chaos in the restaurant. He apologizes to the other patrons and continues moving, resulting in spilled hot coffee on his lap. Although the restaurant staff quickly attend to him, Philip reassures them, stating that he can't feel anything. Lily is mortified by the unfolding situation. Back at the penthouse, Dell tries to console Philip, suggesting that it's Lily's loss, but Philip rebuffs his attempts and blames Dell for talking him into calling Lily. Philip reveals that he wanted to approach Lily when he was ready, but Dell wouldn't listen. In a fit of anger, Philip fires Dell.